In this video, we will dive into the movie Furiosa Mad Max Saga. We'll discover the story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we'll cover the movie's production details and box office performance. Finally, we'll provide a review and share some personal reactions. Let's begin with the story. Spoiler alert. Post-apocalypse and most of the Australia has been reduced to a desert wasteland. However, a tribe called Waverly of the Many Mothers lives in a scheduled oasis. One day while out harvesting peaches, young Furiosa and her friend Valkyrie see a gang of murderers in the oasis butchering a horse. Needing to protect the location of their home from outsiders, Furiosa tells Valkyrie to hide and then tries to substitute the gang's motorcycles. The gang catches and kidnaps her as Furiosa whistles for help. Furiosa's mothers Mary and Mary's friend pursue and kill some of the gang members but not the one with Furiosa. Eventually, the surviving gang member arrives at the camp, which is run by the bloodthirsty Dementis, Chris Hemsworth. Before the gang member can give the location of the oasis, Furiosa manages to slit his throat. Dementis, who knows he lost his own children during the apocalypse, has Furiosa taken to a trunk and promised to take her home the next day. During a sandstorm, Mary sneaks in and manages to kill Furiosa's guard and flee with her daughter. But Dementis attacked the pairs with his bloodhounds. Eventually, Dementis has his gang captured the two. He brutally tortures Mary in front of the Furiosa for the oasis location, but Mary never reveals it before she dies. Furiosa then goes silent, refusing to talk for years. The only thing Furiosa has to remind her of home is the seed from the peach tree that she was harvesting. Furiosa is kept as Dementis' prisoner, although she often offers to her his daughter. She is forced to witness as his gang grows in size and brutality. One such moment is when Dementis and his friend corner a small group and forces them to join his gang. As part of his ritual, the leader of the small group is chained to 5 motorcycles. The other members of the group are then forced to fight to get on the motorcycles. Otherwise, Dementis will have them killed. After the 5 victors, including Ilsa, particularly in other role, take the seats on the motorcycle, they drive off and tear their old leader apart. Dementis and his gang leader find a brain-damaged war boy wandering in the desert, having clearly been wounded in a battle with the unknown enemy. The war boy tells Dementis of his home in the citadel, where there's a plenty of water and food. While looking through the war boy's gear, they shot off his rear gun and it dyes Dementis' beard red, much to Dementis' pleasure. Dementis as a gigantic gang drive into the citadel, a fortress built with rock formation that pumps clean fresh water from beneath the surface into a cistern at the top of the rock formation, and tries to turn the people against their leader, a man named Immortan Joy. Joy, along with his aide, the People Eater and sons Rictus and Scotus, mocks Dementis. He has his war boys lob explosive into Dementis' gang from a high and use cornice to host away many of their vehicles. Dementis retreats with what remains of his forces but begins watching the citadels. He learns that the citadel trades foods and water from gas from nearby gas towns and bullet from another nearby place called the Bullet Farm. Dementis and his forces manage to overrun one of the citadel's transport trucks called a war rig on its way to Gastown and uses it to sneak in his warriors. Once inside, Dementis' soldiers ambush Gastown's forces, open the gates, and Dementis takes over. As the new man in charge, Dementis opens negotiation with the Joe, threatening to use a remote detonator to blow up Gastown if Joe tries to kill him. Joes agree to increase the amount of water and food sent to Gastown in exchange for Furiosa. Healthy women are rare, so he hopes to one day have her as a breeder, and for the organic mechanism, a man with medical knowledge. Dementis rejects the deal, saying that Joe will not separate him from his daughter, but Furiosa speaks up for the first time in years and says she is not his daughter and that she wants to join the citadel. Dementis then accepts the deal. Furiosa eventually manages to escape the room where Joe keeps his enslaved wives and breeders. She then dresses as a boy and begins to work with Scout's team building new vehicles and deadlier war rigs. Years pass and Furiosa, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, is now a young adult. Having proven her mechanism mechanical, she is a highly prospective crew member. Furiosa continues to pretend that she is mute. She secretly hatches a plan to run away that she can return home. Patrician Jack is Joe's best driver, having never lost a war rig during transport. As he leaves for his most recent run to Gastown and Bullet Farm, Furiosa sneaks abroad by strapping himself to the undercarriage of the war rig. Unfortunately, the war rig is attacked by a gang that split off the Dementis gang and were exiled from Gastown. A major battle ensues with the gang using all manner of glider and flying vehicle against Jack and his crew. After the battle, Jack and Furiosa as the only survivors. Furiosa tries to steal the war rig, but Jack manages to stop her. The pair then talk and Jack offers to make Furiosa his apprentice so that she can learn everything he knows about vehicles and combat. With the knowledge, she can make a proper escape when the time is right. Furiosa accepts his offer. More time passes and Furiosa is now a patrician and Jack's second in command. Moreover, the two have fallen in love. One night, as Jack and Furiosa talk in a hurried carriage atop the citadel, Jack says that he believes Furiosa is ready to make a break for freedom. He also confides that he spotted her because her parents believe that nothing is more important than fighting for a cause, and he believes he is finally doing that by helping her. Jack then asks if Furiosa will let him come with her, and she agrees. On the next run to the Bullet Farm, the farm's leader, the Bullet Farmer, tells them Gastown is starting to fall apart and he and Joe should attack Dementis, while he is distracted by the Scott. While the pair arrives in Gastown, they find that the community is indeed in chaos and on the brink of collapse. Despite the fuels and shipment, many of the people are starving due to Dementis mismanagements. As the food and water are unloaded, Dementis arrives and requests to meet with Joy and the Bullet Farmer to discuss how they can restore order to Gastown. He then provokes the season to riot and Furiosa and Jack merely manage to escape alive. When they report the news to Joy, he calls the Bullet Farmer to the citadel where he and his sons and advisor David what to do. They eventually decide to attack Dementis and others with preparation to go to the Bullet Farm to bring back all the emu they can carry. After receiving their order, Furiosa and Jack decide to escape during the mission. At the Bullet Farm, the Citadel forces are attacked by Dementis and his soldiers. Dementis has anticipated that Joe and the Bullet Farmer would try to take all the emu and kill him. So while the farmer was gone, he launched a surprise attack against the farmer and took it for himself. The war boys are quickly killed off and Jack is trapped inside Bullet Farm. He yells at Furiosa, who avoided the trap to escape while the launches a one-man attack on Dementis. She refuses to abandon him and enter the Bullet Farm willingly. The two of them manage to make a merciless escape. Enraged by their defenses, Dementis and his forces pursue the pair. Despite their best efforts, Furiosa and Jack are captured by Dementis, who does not recognize a fully grown Furiosa. To punish them for their hope and love, they chains Furiosa up and then has Jack killed by being dragged to death by a motorcycle and eaten by his bloodhounds. During the spectacle, Furiosa shone off her arm that was handcuffed, substitutes Dementis' vehicles and escapes. She returned to the citadel, impelled to the help along by Mad Max Rocksteady, who is seen watching her as she crosses the desert. She tells Immortan Joy and the Bullet Farmer about all that transpired. She then vows to personally kill Dementis. War ensues, led by Scotters. As the war is waged, Furiosa builds herself as mechanical arm and then drives out to the front. There she sees the Scotters has won the war. Although Dementis' forces had been defeated, Dementis escapes into the desert. Furiosa follows Dementis into the desert, killing his last romantic allies as she stalks them. Eventually, Dementis is the sole survivor of his once mighty gang. He wakes up on morning to find that his canteen has been split open, his motorcycle destroyed and his weapon emission of ammo. Furiosa confronts him and after a brief struggle he surrenders to her. As she tortures him, he eventually realizes who she is. Rather than fear her, he is overjoyed to be reunited with his daughter. He says that Furiosa will be his true successor as she will be now be guided by bloodlust and vengeance, as he is. Furiosa repeated his claim, saying that she will prove she is nothing like him. Several different endings are presented by the narrator of the film. One of is that Furiosa simply shoot and killed Dementis. Another one is that she tortured Dementis in the same way he tortured Mary and Jack. But the narrator then revealed that Furiosa says what happened. Furiosa claims that she brought Dementis back to the citadel. There she planted the peach tree and inside of him the tree grew, outbred out of his stomach and bearing new fruit of his rich body. The film then ends with Furiosa smuggling Immortan Joe's wives into her war rig so that she can liberate them from the citadel's enjoyed tyranny, as seen in the Mad Max Fury Road. Now let's talk about the main cast of the movie, that is Dementis as Chris Hemsworth. Born August 11, 1983, Melbourne, Australia, is an Australian actor who came for fame for his role as Thor in several Marvel Cinematic Universe. Early life and career. Hemsworth's mother was an English teacher and his father was a social service counselor. His two brothers Luke Hemsworth and Liam Hemsworth also became actors. The family moved back and forth between Melbourne and the outcome community of Bulbourne, Northern Territory, eventually settled on Phillip Island. Hemsworth's first acting job came in 2002 when he played King Arthur in two episodes of the fantasy television series Jamward Jones. Like many Australian actors, he cut his teeth with the role 2004 to 2007 on the soap opera Home and Away. Hemsworth then moved to the United States in hopes of transitioning his acting career to film. He was cast in the role of Captain Kirk's father in J.J. Abrams' 2009 movie Star Trek, and the same year he played a mercenary hijacking in the thrilling A Perfect Gateway. He appeared in the minor action movie Cash 2012 before his first outing as the title horse god in Kenneth Branach's Thor. The movie told story of Thor's heroic beaching of a peace and being ambition to 1960 century art to learn humanity. Hemsworth's light, self-seeking, and human touch in his portrait of the comic superhero made the film a hit and launched a popular franchise. He later starred in Thor: The Dark World 2013, Thor Ragnarok 2017, and Thor: Love and Thunder 2022. The latter two were both directed by Taika Waititi. Hemsworth also portrayed the character in other Marvel movies, including The Avengers 2012. During this time, Hemsworth appeared in numerous other films. We had a leading role in the horror movie The Cabin in the Woods, filmed in 2009 but did not release until 2011. He then portrayed the Huntsman in the imagination fairy tale Snow White and the Huntsman 2012, a character he repeated in the less successful The Huntsman Winter Wars 2016. Other notable notes include that formula of one race driver James Hunt in the Ron Bird critically praises Rush 2013, a computer hacker in Marshall Man's crime-thrilled Black Hat, and a sexy representation in blockbuster Answer the Call, a gender-flip remake of the classic 1984 comedy film. He gave a well-received performance as an underestimated Green Beret captain in the Afghanistan war story 12 Strong 2018. Hemsworth also played a secret agent holding alien affairs in Men in Black International 2019 and a heroic mercenary in the action movie Extraction 2020. He reprised the latter role in Extraction 2 2023. Hemsworth was almost unrecognized under a large positive nose in the performance as the Beaver villain Dementis in George Miller's Furiosa Mad Max Saga 2014. In 2022, Hemsworth starred in the Disney's Limited, which enter a willingness and self-improvement. Throughout the series, he underwent various health-related challenges that lost his limit. In 2024, the actor was chosen as a co-creator alongside Bad Bunny, Jennifer Lopez, and Saga for the year's Met Gala, the annual benefits for the Costume Institute at the Marshall Museum of Art, New York City. Hemsworth married Spanish actress Ilsa Patwi in 2012. Month after meeting, they have three children: daughter Indian born in 2012 and twin sons Terrasan and Sosha born in 2012. The second character is Furiosa, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, that is born on 1996, Miami, Florida, United States, is an actress who broke through with her lauded performance in the 2015 horror film The Witch and became an international star with the lead role in the Netflix period drama miniseries The Queen Gambit 2020. David O. Russell, who directed Taylor-Joy in the movie Amsterdam 2022, summed her appeal to Vanity Fair in 2021. She is different and strange in ways that were fascination. Early life. Anya Taylor-Joy, the youngest of 6 children, was born to a composition family in Miami. Her mother, Jennifer Marina Joy, was born in Zambia and of English and Spanish descent, while Taylor-Joy's father, Dennis Taylor, has a Scottish and Argentina background. Soon after Taylor-Joy was born, the family moved to Argentina, where Taylor-Joy's mother was a psychologist and her father was a banker. 6 years later, the family moved to London, but Taylor-Joy refused to learn to speak English until she was 18 years old. At the age of 20, she convinced her parents to allow her to leave school, and she was soon discovered by a modeling scout. First Rules and The Witch. Taylor-Joy had known since she was young that she wanted to become an actress, and she saw modeling as a gateway to the screen. She soon made her acting debut in 2014 with brief appearances in the television show Vampire Academy and Infer. The following year, she landed a part in The Witch, a supernatural horror film about a family tormented by black magic while living in the New England wilderness in 1630. The small budget film performed well at festival and was a critical success, with many viewers noting Taylor-Joy's performance promise as the elder daughter who is actively pursued as a reroute of the Malvern Coven. In early 2016, The New York wrote that Taylor-Joy is remarkable in the role. Her wide-eyed innocence was the threat of cunning, becoming a screen queen. In her next role, Taylor-Joy showcases her range, playing a prophet in the second season 2015 of the TV series Atlantic, a hominid in the science fiction featured Morgan 2016, and the college girlfriend of eventual US President Barack Obama in the Netflix film Barry 2016. She was nonetheless soon branded a scream queen. This is the part to The Witch and is role by Midnight Slagan sequel this 2000 Thrilled Unbroken Split 2016 and Glass 2019. In those sequels, Taylor-Joy assumed the role of Cassie, a woman abducted by a man, played by James Buckle with dissociative identity disorder. Other nail-biters include the dark comedy Throughtable 2017, the supernatural horror Marabonu 2017, and the period thriller The Manchester 2017. At the end of the decade, Taylor-Joy moved away from such roles, portraying the daughter of Mary Cobb, played by Rosalie Park, in Reducer, and joining the cast of the hit series Peaky Blinders during its fifth season in 2019. She later reprised her role as a charming wife during the series' last six seasons in 2022. Emma, the Queen's Gambit. In 2020, Taylor-Joy became a sensation with lead part in the featuring Emma and the Netflix miniseries The Queen's Gambit. In the former, she assumed the role of Emma Woodhouse, a character who Jane Austen sums up in the novel of the same name, handsome, clever, and rich. In The Queen's Gambit, Taylor-Joy played the fictional chase parody Beth Harmon, which early taste of fame leads her on a self-destructive path. The show was a massive success as the record of 62 million households turned into the series within 28 days of its reveals, and sales of chess sets surged by 125% in the same period. In a 2021 interview with Vanity Fair, Taylor-Joy occupied, who uses to joke on that we were bringing sexy back to the chess. We didn't really think that's what people actually think. Her performance in both projects earned her 2 Golden Globe nominations, one for Best Performance by an Actress in the Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy Emma, and one for Best Performance by an Actor in the Limited Series, Anthology Series or Television Motion Picture The Queen's Gambit. She won the latter. Other roles from the 2020s. Taylor-Joy continued to land headlining part in the early 2020s. She took a role as a Russian sources in the new Motland 2020, an action movie based on a character from Marvel Comics. X-Men states as aspiring singer in the 1960s in Last Night in Solo 2021. A psychological thrill directed by Edward Wright. Retreated with the Witch director Robert Egg in Northman 2022, a drama about a Viking avenging his father's murder, and joined the started cast of Amsterdam, a quickly comedy directed by Russell. For a role in the dark comedy The Menu 2022, Taylor-Joy was again nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Motion Picture. In 2022, Taylor-Joy quietly married musician Malcolm Recre, holding a ceremony in Venice a years later. Taylor-Joy began 2024 with a brief unscripted cameo in Dallas Wilson blockbuster hit Dune Part 2 as Alia Station, the sister of lead character Paul Estrie. Both the available said interview that they hope she will appear in a potential third installment in the series. She followed that up with perhaps her most prominent role to date, Imperator Furiosa in George Miller's Furiosa Mad Max Saga, a prequel to the Mad Max Fury Road 2015. She commentators viewed Taylor-Joy's casting with depression and Slytherin turned into a Furiosa in the previous film was much beloved, but Taylor-Joy received mostly positive review for her portrait of the tricksome character, with the New York Times slinging out her draft physically saying that she moves beautifully, that the kind of unforced gracefulness that suggests she can easily slip out of any difficulty. Now let's talk about the third famous character, Nicholas Hoult, that was born on December 7, 1989. In England is a British actor who is perhaps best known for playing Hank McCreary Beast in the X-Men series of movies and Nux in Mad Max Fury Road 2015 and Furiosa Mad Max Saga. Hoult was the grandnephew of British stage and screen star drama Anna Nicol. His father was a commercial pilot, his mother taught piano, and the 3 siblings all had acting experience. At the age of 3, Holt had started watching his brother James perform in a play and was discovered by the director of that production. He remarked if she could conceive of watching a play, then he could be in one. Holt made his feature film debut in Illuminated Relationship 1996, but it was his second film about a boy 2002, made when he was 12 years old. He brought his international attention. In the comedy, which was based on a novel by Nick Murphy, he portrayed nearby child by Vacuum Eyebrows, who is taken under the wing of an unlikely mentor played by Hugh. Holt's career as a child actor was brief, however, because in the span of 3 years he grew to a height of 6 feet 3 inches. As a teen, he portrayed Heartless Tony Stubber in the British TV series Skin, before American fashion designer Tom Ford lured him to the Hollywood to appear in Ford's Traction debut, A Single Man 2009. Holt stares opposite Caulfield as a charming college student who uses his seductive power to draw out a grieving and coalesced gay man. In 2013, he appeared as a zombie in The Warm Bodies. Holt's first action film was Clash of the Titans 2012. He then physically transformed himself beyond recognition to play the Beast in X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse. He underwent another transformation for a role in George Miller Mad Max Fury Road. In the Frotek Thrill, he was cast as Nux, a blade-headed, pasty-faced boy and fantastic flower in the army of famous Immortan Joy. In 2015, Holt also started with Kristen Stewart in Equal, about a young couple who begin fortune romance in fortune society in which the development of feelings signal deadly disease and banish. Holt's later film credits include the British action thriller Corridor, in which he portrayed as American backpacker who become involved with drug smuggler after getting a job as their driver, and The Sand Castle about 2016 about the Iraq War. In Rebel in the Eye, he started as J.D. Slinger, author of The Catch the Raid, continues to show his blatantly hot portrait in 18th century political in The Favorite 2018, a historical drama about Queen's Anne Court. During this time, he also lent his voice to the animated TV Partnership Down 2018, which was based on Richard Adams' beloved children's book. Holt credits from 2019 include his biopic trilogy about the early years of the famed writer. The following years, he appears in The Banker, playing the front of man for African American enterprises in the 1950s. In 2020, Holt returned to television with the debut of two series, The Great, a fiction comedy drama, The Rise of Catherine the Great, and Crossing Sword, an animated comedy in which he voiced a patient who became a scorer. He then played a killer haunting a young boy in the action thriller Who's Who Wish Me Dead in 2021. In the Menu 2022, Holt portrayed a petitioner for the Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga ending explained. Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga has finally hit theaters, and if you are here and you have moved on past the spoiler warning, we assume that you have already gotten the dose of the wasteland. If not, well, you are warned. The Fury Road prequel has a pretty cut and dry ending, legally because it's taken as directly into one of the most universally beloved films of the last 20 years, Mad Max Fury Road. The final scene before the credit roll takes place maybe only hours before we meet Furiosa at the beginning of the 2015 installment of the franchise, as she smirkles Immortan Joy's harm into her war rig. Still, Furiosa does get a new moment to herself before she gathers the wives into the belly of her death-dealing Simi and attempt to raise their freight to freedom. As Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth Dementor see their great match crescendo, their confrontation leads to an ending that's almost entirely up to the viewers to interpret. A narrator, who we believe is George Social History Man, who don't quite us, describes the method with which Furiosa is rumored to have dispatched Dementis reveal the different scenario play out on screen. A single bullet, roasting on a makeshift cross, and being dragged behind a wasteland hot rod. The point is, it's a story worth coming legend, being passed down through the age footage. We are not sure, because no time passes between the end of the Furiosa and Fury Road. Still, this is an idea that George Miller is very explicitly toyed with since McMurray V8 Imperator first saw Revenge is the Wasteland. Speaking to agent Scott Cologa, Miller had this to say about the revenge tale. This is a kind of cultural evolution Miller starts, where stories are told over and over again, but somehow they have to have some sort of resonance with their times, and we have been telling revenge stories in all cultures, especially with Greek mythology. and mainly biblical stories, particularly Old Testament. It's a big in that word, it's not mythology. So how do you tell a variation of it? The really interesting version of the legend of the Furiosa revenge and simultaneously the most and last possible one, even if it's also the ending that the film implies in true outcome, finds Furiosa planting a seed she's kept since Dementis first abducted her as a child somehow in Dementis' mind section. High in the citadel, Dementis is doomed to exit at the living soul for a tree from which he takes his only bit of substance. The concentration feeling from its leaves, it's an image that part freaky ambushes, part snake eating its own but part classical mythology vibes. The idea this man might be fated to literally bear fruit for a woman whose child was repeatedly destroyed, so that he might continue her quest to return home ranks right up there an eagle dating a huge liver every day or some asshole having to push a boulder up hill of eternity. Miller found inspiration for this ending in the mythologies found in his home, Australia. They always go to the something larger, he said of musician Australian stories, where it become unpathologically mythological. So that's what we offer up. Taping visions brings you to the full stop or a downward spiral, but we are looking for something else. The image of the tree, involving the placement of the trunk on its lower abducted the gotten as Ancient Fox referring to its southern trajectory, shows to have additional bit of significant attached to it. However, it represents Furiosa's ability to coax some growth out of her lifetime commitment to revenge. The single sees that color to flower into a tree which bars the fruit of her long lost home once again. She demanded that Dementis give her mother back, and in a strange symbolic way, she forces him to do just now. But that's just another element of Miller's intriguing goal with Furiosa and the Mad Max franchise at this point in its narrative. With each successive entry, the series gets more and more steep in her older transition, include more legend and less hard form. But that doesn't mean Miller left everything wide open to interpretation. Furiosa Mad Max Saga did begin its life as backstory of Chirai's Theron take on the character in Fury Road, which blossomed into concept art and a screenplay and eventually the film. They took a similar approach to Fury Road's other lead character as well. We did the same for Max in the year before we met him in Fury Road, that was written not as a screenplay but as a novella, Miller's explained. So we had those two stories and everybody including the cast, every designer, every member of the crew got as the way of understanding that was happening in the Fury Road. There are very specific design organization ideas behind them all. But will the warburger done by Miller and his team in undeclaredly extension? What happened in the wasteland? The wrath of all should still be taken with a grain of popularity diction sand. As Miller put in, while taking to us about the tree, I shouldn't interrupt what it means. It's for everybody to take what it means. The return to the green place. What's less of an interpretation are the final moment of the film. Furiosa claims her peach, sharing it with the wives as she leads them in the vortex, sure that she will take them to an oasis where none of them will never have to deal with the cruelty of the man or the harshness of the wastelander again. Of course, where Furiosa Mad Max Saga ends, Mad Max Fury Roads begin, and as we know what Furiosa that the surviving wives find her remaining Wolverine family only to learn that the green place is now uninhabitable Swangle. As for what happened next, well, that's a different ending explained. So what did the ending of the film mean to you? Did you like the scissor reel of Fury Road that played during the end credits because oh man did he run home and watch that one again? Let me know about it in the comment section. The question is, do you have it to you to make it epic? Regardless and totally dranked as a Dr. Dementis, Chris Hemsworth is making small talk with Furiosa Inhaler Toy Joy, who is no mood for idle chatter the moment comes toward the end of the movie. By this point in the film, Furiosa is a single-minded, film-eyed drinker with crucified power tool for an arm. It's a great line, which Hemsworth delivered with a lipless ration, but given the brand modern action slide that has preceded the change, it's a question that is probably redundant. This is a George Miller's pictured. After all, epic is all part of a day's work. But even by the standard of the previous film in the Mad Max series, Fury Road is the coolest in tone. But there are marked differences between the two pictures. There is a huge marauding monster of movie. See it on the biggest screen if you can. Let the thunderous rumble of customized vortex shake your sheets, and the saber angry ochre culture played grin in itself into a prose. As a single suggest, we follow the backstory of Furiosa, the character played in Fury Road by Charlize Theron. Here, she is performed as a child by Alelia Brown and a young woman by Renea Taylor-Joy. On the physical resemblance alone, it's super casting. The two look almost uncannily similar. Beyond that, they are both independently impressive in the role. Beyond, let's see the wiltily calculation beneath the small of trauma and the little girl ripped from her mother and her community and forced to see things so children should witness. The Taylor-Joy is a player to watch in the action sequence which can take up probably 90% of the film. Her lethal agility, the cunning, is a refreshment compared to all the lumbering muscle and firepower. She is tiny in comparison, she has most of the cost, but give her a grappling hook and set of wheels and I genuinely believe she could best of any of them. Her rake might be one of the forces that shape the young Furiosa, but another is kindness. Plaudits to the casting department are due elsewhere too, is particularly to whoever decides to unleash Hemsworth on the role of Dementis. It turns out he was born to play a bad guy, a commitment with a fake noise and a disgusted teddy bear. He despises the touch of the Millsbar-toned persona he brought to Thor, but couples it with a dangerous palette of sentimentally and cruelty, with the side order of boiling ambitions and insanity. He bluntly muttered, "I am bored," having just watched a key character get dragged to their death behind a motorcycle across cheese-crater desert gravel border on Genian. Dementis is the braving leader of the biker gang who consider themselves a force to be reckoned within the wasteland. It's Dementis boy who abducted the young Furiosa. It's on Dementis' order that her mother is tortured and murdered. And it's Dementis who poses a real and grave threat to the way of the life and the place of abundance, what Furiosa people got from the savage energy of the outside world. Furiosa launches him with a passion that hardened with every passing fear. If Fury Road was a chase movie powered by hope for a better future, Furiosa is a revenge flick driven by hate. Her rage might be one of the forces that shapes the young Furiosa, but another is kindness, a curious amorphous concept that seems out of the place in the world in which most people would flame throughout your face as soon look at you. The kindness comes from degenerate Rick Bertrand Jack, who forms an alliance with Furiosa and Montra as her driver, fighter and general Betes. Of course, evil tends to be more civilishly memorable. The Decoracy has a way of getting slaughtered into the background when pretty much elsewhere in the cast is trying to out-crazy each other. Settle Bark delivered solid work in the role that can't help but feel a little underpowered. It's an unremarkable achievement by Milbel, a piece of world building that is fully reduced down to the lost disease touched on the lost barrel dwelling Margaret Farmer, and the action sequences are phenomenal. There is a niggling question for whether there is a much substance beneath the blizzard assault of the skeptical. Your level of enjoyment will depend on whether you or not receive a message with the metheme. For my part, the metheme suit me just fine. The movie is in the theaters now. The question is, do you have what it takes to make it epic, says an undaunted Chris Hemsworth. It's a call to action what comes toward the end of Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, George Miller's apocalyptic epic western prequel to Mad Max Fury Road that could of course be directed at Miller himself. Because that film is here to give you more gravity flying chases, more highly flying stunts, more deeply filled paths and somehow and even greater spirit to push the limits of what the frame and hold held, employing Christian integrity and a Thorian legion to craft an interesting story that still managed to surprise. Even if we already know of the bleak future and guidance as to words, it's simply one of the best prequel ever made. Broken into 5 chapters, each denser than is the last, the film began with a very young Furiosa, Alaya Bloney, picking fruit from a tree near his alloy homeland, the Green Place. A biker gang arrives to fog the land, and through Furiosa able attempt to substitute their bike, she is captured, causing her mother to venture her into the desert wasteland to retrieve her. A chase piece ensures one of the film's many expensive set pieces that sees Furiosa mother pursuing her daughter kidnapped over and doomed through a sandstorm to the steps of the hideout belonging to mischief figure Dementis. This is the beginning of a decade-long feud between Furiosa and the Dementis that involved revenge, grief, and the desire to return home. To do any further summarizing would of course not only spoil the film, but would also say that the narrative beats are necessary. They are not. That doesn't mean Furiosa is lyrical. Rather than more than anything, Miller is telling an emotional story of how one's victorious child became a hardened woman. What kinds of fact matches well with the film's opposite subtlety as we are introduced to the origin of wasteland fortress like Gastown and the Bullet Farm, and taken to the citadel homed by a younger, more imposing Immortan Joy. Other characters like Immortan Joy's babbling son Rictus and Scotus return, and tips of the hate are given to fan favorite farm Fury Road. Surprisingly, the older Furiosa doesn't appear until an hour or so in the film. That might inspire immediately disappointed in some, but it would not, because Ella Bruni as the oldest Furiosa is so absorbing. After calling a young Furiosa in her mixture of otherworldly intelligence and relentless confidence, the groundwork she lays is so shameless by the time, so we'll leap forward to Taylor's Joy take on its character. It required a few belts before it could tell the difference between the two characters. Miller is so assured at reading an audience. We have crossed an elongated chase that sees Furiosa craving across the wasteland with Patreon Jack on an oil run that gives Taylor Joy the character the perfect entrance. A hard push is for a fourth worldly close-up. Beckers is on screen for a relatively short time. He and Taylor Joy build quickly chemistry as the two lost souls who believe that paradise still exists somewhere in the world if they follow the map of stars tosses on Furiosa's forearm. If it feels like Hemsworth is an also a rain, he is not, which is odd to say because he is saddled with a tribal wig and an observant porous nose and even disappear for long stretches. Still, when he does show up, he might be the best part of Furiosa. He doesn't just get the best, more intensely quotable line. He has ever been more physically commanding. First as a pissed messiah and swinder, then as a bow-hard politician, then as an emperor with no clothes on. The combination of Demetis' wit, colonist, and cold calculation is a persona. Hemsworth has worked on some of the time, and it all comes together careful and unforgettable villain return. I can certainly nitpick about the element I prefer in Fury Road as opposed to Furiosa. There was more VFX in the latter, causing me to miss one of the thrills Miller inspired with the unconscious use of practical effect. I also think that Furiosa Road acts as a subtle thematic level, which is saying something, because the visual language in that film for an abstruse as the cross mid is basically bushes you over the head. Furiosa goes on a step further. Every line of dialogue flags the metaphorical importance of every scene. And just it's easy to ignore these tiny craver not only because you are left morbid at the big swing Miller is taking, but also become his interest in the world. These character and this type of big bold storytelling is so infectious. There's also a character named Piss Boy, so that really is a movie that's something for everyone. No one knows how to do scale better than Miller. Margaret Sacker and Elliot Knapp's editing is breathily shameless, quickly bleeding both reporter between character and groggy death with Google Tanaki, to the point that D.P. Simon gets an elegant photography of these disordered death valleys matched by composer Tom Holkport, defyingly compositive score, who emerges you in a way that is not neatly showing. Each large set piece feels necessary, be aware of space and story, bringing with camera that takes delight in knowing exactly what will shoot or angle of the many battle we want to take in as it swerves between logging bodies, massive informs, monster trucks, a big rigs and over sand dunes. Much will be spoken about the Furiosa on a thematic level, such as how it observed the medical apple scene for a well-earned ending, or how it speaks of our present environment, mythological and aggressive political reality, particularly why we go to the war and fluxes of the leader who take us there. But this is also just a big entertainment popcorn movie, told with the setup, adventure and play. Miller is not for Todd Moroni, algorithm plotting are all designed for the small screen. Furiosa aims to blow you away and it does to Valhalla and beyond. The end of Furiosa sees the title characters catching up to Dementis as he awakens in the desert to find his water bottle has been cut. He has nothing to left to drink. He exits his makeshift seat to see the Furiosa in the distance, ready to exact her revenge on him. She stands over him with a gun to his head as Dementis tries to reason with her. He suggests that if she kills him, he will simply be just like him. She mulls over how to exact her revenge and decides to initially rob him of his voice by cutting off his tongue. It is up to interpretation how Furiosa actually kills Dementis, as the viewer is told by a voiceover from the history man that Furiosa told him how she dispatched the evil villain. According to the version of events, Furiosa planted him in the ground in the garden of the citadel, with a peach tree growing out of his private area. Demetrius is actually still alive when the movie ends, but he is old and withering away when a ripe peach can be spotted growing out of the tree. Furiosa gives the peach to Immortan Joy's bride and hides them in the story tank in the war rig, which pans towards their flight to the green place in the Mad Max Fury Road. Yes, the ending credit scene featured clip from the Mad Max Fury Road to reflect how the end of the Furiosa bleeds into the beginning of the 2015 movie. However, there's a short tease at the every end of the footage with a brand new shot of the bird school Pebble Hood belonging to Fury Road's war boy Nux. For some time, Mad Max fans had been writing on Furiosa Mad Max Saga. Many were admitting secretly about a prequel of Mad Max Fury Road, especially after a brutal war that took Charlize Theron's Furiosa and Tom Hardy Max Prequel over Immortan Joy. However, the trailer shut down the accusation, indicating that director George Miller would indeed be charting another day's ride in Australia's Westlands. The movie finds Anya Taylor-Joy as a young Furiosa, trying hard to survive in the wilderness that human society has developed into. Unfortunately, she gets kidnapped and ends up at Joy's citadel. As Furiosa embarks on adventures for her own and a case of poor revenge, the movie built a waiting violence and explosive climax. Furiosa was kidnapped as a child by Chris Hemsworth Dementis. His biker whore killed her mother, Mary, after she trying to find the lady home, the green place. However, Furiosa wouldn't walk. It resulted in the child being traded to Joy to work in his machine shops, all in exchange for supplies. Dementor considered her as a daughter, but she was too selfish to refuse the goods. In the eyes, the commercial pact made him more powerful. As the movie proceeds, Furiosa becomes the co-driver of Joy's Vortex. She follows Predator Jock's lead. He is humble, kind, and after losing his old family, he wants Furiosa to fulfill her service and get back to hers. No one but Jack knows she has tattoos a map to get back to her home on her hand. All she needs is to liberate to make the trick, as fate would have it. She and Jake fall in love. They decided to elbow the green secret, with hints that maybe they'd even start a family. Sadly, they fall prey to Dementor's descent into the madness on the final run. The villain mismanagement at cost on fuel enter the overtook to launch the cop on the bullet farm. Once he can control fuel on ammunition, he'll more severe to demand things from Joe. The civil war results in his men trying to hijack the war rig. A chase ensues with Furiosa rescuing a wounded Jack and escaping in a muscle car. Demetrius' team pursued them, some on a motorcycle and the King himself in a monster truck. Demetrius crashes into the door. Furiosa's arm becomes mangled, which means she loses the map. Demetrius and his drag the Beyond of Jack around while she dog at the hero and murder him. It takes hours, but this is Demetrius sending a message as the dust particle into a man-made storm that would take his family, so he has to cruelty to those who offended him, even after discovering the victim in the stepdaughter he once tried to create. Many might say that this is not a Mad Max movie. Mel Gibson Max lost his family and went on a hunt in the older movies, while Tom Hardy Max was also a survival tale. Without Max's presence, how could Furiosa be a part of this saga? Furiosa's story is the line with Max. She lost her skin and needs to navigate the post-apocalyptic terrain. She also has to bend her ethical and moral code to do so. Part of her doesn't want to become a monster, but this is a cautionary tale where people are left with no choice. While Demetrius' crew celebrate in the dusty cloud, they have no clue Furiosa has ripped her map, arm off and combination a bike to speed off into the hills. They pursue but fail to catch her. She is very much seeking vengeance in the way Max did. Ironically, when she gains distance and ends up roaming the desert on foot, the person who watches her collapse is none other than Max. Fans are see from the back as the rocks his iconic leather jacket, who's next to his V8 Imperator car eating a snake. Max is not played by Hardy this time around, but Hardy's Fury Road stammered Jacob Tomori. The movie cut to the black with the next scene showing Furiosa in a refugee camp where an old lady tends to corpse with flesh wounds. It's implied Max found Furiosa, felt sorry for her and dropped her off. This is done to connect their warrior energy and prove their kindred spirit. This is not a concise as they would find each other and partner up after Max uses up Enel Box, a war boy, for his plant in Fury Road. Simply doesn't exist in the wasteland, however, this is a sequel and quite important. Furiosa flees the camp, unites the Joe's worker and reunites return to Joy's citadel. There she elaborates on Demetrius' plan to bait the army to Gaze Town, but hit them from the side as they were not supposed to know he has taken the bullet form. Joe's region make a perceptive strike through his turn into a choice stage many war are claimed, but it allows Furiosa to shave her head and her fitness with a robotic arm to seek her lodge out. While Max is not directly involved in the war, he is the catalyst for the final. This further ties into the journey where he suffered trauma after failing to save people he met along the way. Likely Furiosa is one of the merciless. The final showdown has Furiosa stealing a doomed body from Joe's sons, Scottus and Rictus. She murders Tomato's crew and captures his director. Furiosa struggles with what he has become. She wants Tomatoes to beg, scream and cry like her mother did. Furiosa thinks this will make her whole again and provide clear and restoration for her soul. But Tomatoes is not apologetic. He is battered and pursued, and review his nature cunning its course. Miller keeps his vengeance to what happened next. The narrator who records the citadel's history mentioned maybe Furiosa tortured and murdered Dementis the way he did others, or maybe she put a bullet through his child doll and his head. His particularly hypothetical ending is Furiosa Mad as if related to the loss of his win, so no reason to turn into a victorious villain who lacked compassion and love. However, the narrator says he knows the truth. Furiosa brought Amatus to the citadel, hid him in a cave and planted a seed for a peach tree to go through him. It said that it struck the reality dry, leaving a frail and smashing Demetrius watching as Furiosa picked the first peach. Hope spring eternal for our Demetrius he couldn't live before. Ironical, because all of he wanted was the green place. Now he's a part of it, at least in this version. There are two keynotes to Furiosa's action. The seed is what her mother left her with. And damn it if she didn't make it home, she needed to rebuild the green place. This never came to pass in Miller's Fury Road. As there have not been restrictions thus, there is an added bonus here for those who know the future of the franchise. Secondly, when Furiosa picks the first fruit she awarded into peace and gives them to Joy's wife. Furiosa is now the Imperator driving a new deck. But this fruit is the sign of the second chance and a new lease on life. Joyce has done to this moment what Demetrius did to Furiosa. The final scene has her leaving Demetrius to suffer, feeding the wives that proved and hiding them on the rig. This kickless Fury Road what Six tried to help the Scottish the Citadel, with Joyce Craven left chasing them. Ultimately, now fans know why Furiosa did this to ensure the women wouldn't lose their identity to toxic men like she did. Furiosa is now playing in the theater and you can easily watch it by going through this. Now let's talk about the cast and complete production of the Furiosa Mad Max Saga movie. Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, Chris Hemsworth as Dementis, Tom Burke as Portrayal Jack, George Chauvas as the History Man, George Howard as the People Eater, Charlie Fisher as the Mary Chebuska, Nathan Jones as Rictus Eric Curtis, Davis Fields as Joe Jam, David Colonis as Swick, Alela Brownie as Young Furiosa, Lachie Hamley as Immortal Joy, Angus Jameson as Organic Mechanism, Ilsa Petwy as Wolverine Journal or Mr. Norton, Josh Hellman as Scottress, Rael Humana as Vulture, Gorgon Deckard as Octobos, Meteus as Fang, Guy Spence as Dr. Davidson, Carillius Ryan as Black Thumb, Tim Roger as Snapper, Ion Ward as Mr. Hurley, David Collins as Meg, C.B. Blomfield as Big Jilly, Ian Roberts as Sean Millis as Lone War Boy, Dallin Adonis as Little Valkyrie, Anna Adams as Wolverine, Lee Party as the Bullet Farmer, Peter Stephenson as Guardian of Gastown, Peter Samek as Wolverine, Josh Randall as Savage, Don Kirber as Corpse Milder, Richard Norton as the Prime Imperator, Shea Adams as Cannibal, Nick Canas as First Pick War Boy, Stephen Emerson as Shotgun Puerto Ripley Whitson as Chosen War Boy, Shane Donas as Gastown Gate Watcher, Adam Thompson as Gastown Gate Opener, Natalie Nocon as Winchman, Adam Thespon as Watchtower Puerto Sheon Tong as Gastown Rider, Jamie Cloth as Gastown Gate, The Sixer Miller as Watchtower Puerto Guard, Malika Geswari as Pregnant Wife, Kima Bone as Immortan Harem, Jacob Tamuri as Dogman Max Mad, Brain Poet as Chakka Man, Ned Parwan as Immortan Harem, Spencer Kelly as Raka the British, Sivan Sisson as Weldon Recruit, Robbie Rowland as Lockout War Boy, T.C. Warner as Bobcat War Boy, Harrison Norris as Hess the Wolverine, Sean Ritchie as the Nico Man, Nikos Anderson as Various, Marcia Correndo as Bovolini, Matt Theseus as Roddy Lomet, Hiroshi Saga as Gas Tower, produced by Pete Chipita as executive producer, Domain Entertainment, Rachel Giz as associate producer, Dean Hood as associate producer, Andrew Laurie as executive producer, Domain Entertainment, Doug Mitchell as producer, PGA, George Miller as producer and director, Anthony Tentator as executive producer, Des Moines Entertainment, Kerry Watson as producer behind the scenes. Production management: Clancy Brilzin as production assistant, Melanie Koch as junior production manager, Dean Hood as junior production manager, Nicole Chopping as junior production manager, Megan Hituma as assistant production manager second unit, Stanley Steven as production manager second unit, Mark Sohn as executive in charge production, Warner Bros. Joshua Adams as set finisher, Alexandra Ellison as junior prop man, Shane Poxley as vehicle concept designer, and Tony Bennett as assistant armor, Steve Bruni as set plasterer, Josh Bush as construction supervising foreman, Matt Bott as salvage Austin, Hannah Bella Brownie as art department buyer, Gemma Ward as job person, and Ron Ashen as plaster foreman, Gabriel Kelly as set designer, Franska Kleisman at art department, Ray Collison as pros manufacturer foreman, Damian Egan as assistant armorer, Demi Shilliard as swing gun, Dave Emmett as head armor, Laura Egan on set designer, Charlie Duglin as weapon standby, Tiffany Chuk as weapon coordinator, Stephen Collol as head culture, Tom Gibson as standby props, Grant Gibson as standby props, Dane Hallett as concept artist, Shona Huckman as green prosby, Beth Harris as design assistants, Mark Horman as on-set dresser, Doug Hamilton as properer, Greg Bolt as construction coordinator, Lollich Gilmore as painter, Tiskan Filzais as salvage artist, Aaron Joran as painter, Leach Kelly as leading staff hand, Annette Mickey as concept artist, Wingy Paul as Lizzie Malais, Daniel Martin as armorer, Dave Megan as set designer runner, Kate MC Cohn as assistant art director, Jacob Owen as set decoration designer, James Fillon as junior prop woman, Drag Mitchell as sec rotator designer, Kate Rowling as assistant art director, Georgia Rodwin as standby props assistants, Tim Rage as the art department runner buyer, Nikki Randwich as assistant armor, Suraj and Rodwich as assistant art victor, Francesca Substo as salvage artist, Mark Seston as storyboard artist, Sikila Sandman as construction draftsman, Kevin Selva as concept artist, Sisha Sekles as props, Gabriel Swelfan as standby assistants, Nick Smulian as action vehicle mechanism, Sabolian Titus as senior prop woman, Dan Vanson as action vehicle assistants, Taylor Robbie Wallace as props, Isabella Winpom as senior draftsman, Leah Wilson as leading hand, Cosmo Wood as set decoration painter, Lucy Bobon as set dresser, Dylan Jeets as key standby props, Lauren Witts as action vehicle coordinator, James Wheatley as sculptor, Charlie Jeets as standby props assistants, Tamal Teve as salvage artist, unscripted. Sound department: Simon Allen as additional boom operator, James Ashton as re-recording mixer or sound designer, Steve Cadwell as wireless technician, G. Don Copper as additional boom operator, Gunette Mikri as first assistant sound, Jordan Atasi as boom operator, Glenn Butnell as re-recording engineer, Docon Campbell as faulty mixer, Jill DeFees as international re-recording mix technician, Daniel Hatcher as re-recording engineer, Jenny Hobden as sound effect sound recorder, Tom Holquin as re-recording mixer, Seaman Collin as faulty assistants, Frank Lipson as sound effect recordist, Marison Orders as assistant dialogue and art editor, Adriana Mortis as Foley artist, Robert McRae as re-recording mixer, Matthew Lee as ADR recordist, Steve Carr as first assistant sound, Tom Horizon as sound effect editor, Bob Osmo as production sound mixer, Claire Red as sound assistants, Sam Serkey as wireless technician, Tommy Tradewell as ADR mixer, Malcolm Solveig as sound assistant wand, Matt Foley as foreign dialogue re-recording mixer, Tara Webb as sound effect editor, Sonja Selcott as second assistant sound, Herges Robertson as ADR mixer, Abby Potts as Unearthly Markets re-recording mixer. Makeup department, Amber Adams as additional hair and makeup artist, Robika Allen as hair and makeup and portion artist, Alice Edison as work experience makeup artist, Alice Borish as special makeup effect, Lara Jade Mirch as hair and makeup and positional artist, Lily Black as assistant makeup artist, Nathaniel Cockery as possessive mouth maker, Emma Cornish as hair and makeup assistant, Bronnie Doughty as makeup and hair coordinator, Adriana Demetrius as additional hair and makeup artist, Emma George as hair and makeup potential, Michael Fang as contact lens technician, Samara Galdia as hair and makeup artist, Mia Harrison as makeup artist, Kandique Hickson as additional hair and makeup artist, Leni Darwin as prospective makeup artist, Teresa Hinton as wig mistress, Brady Jones as special makeup artist, Khaleesi Jones as hair and makeup artist, Ebony Key as makeup and key artist, Andrew Christian as additional hair and makeup artist, Connie Liu as assistant makeup artist, Jenny Lee as makeup assistant, Tristan Lucas as trophy makeup artist, Monisha Madden as makeup artist, Maureen McCrow as possessive makeup artist, Lusa McCauley as personal makeup artist Chris Hemsworth, Muriel McElroy as possessive makeup artist, Vizi Mulam as hair and makeup artist, Tess Nolly and hair and makeup artist, Adeline Faye Pitts as special makeup effect, Madison Rapp as assistant makeup artist, and Tony McMall as Alisar Morley, Isabella Neri as makeup and hair artist, Mia Fifia as assistant makeup artist, Jazz Reddy as additional special makeup effect, Georgina Ryan as makeup and hair artist, Alicia Albini as additional hair and makeup artist, Matthew Sewell as personal makeup designer, Kamalia Sool as makeup and hair unit, Vicky Sands as additional perspective makeup artist, Taylor Scott as additional perspective artist, Micheline Seo as assistant hair and makeup artist, Chris Hemsworth, Brady Stone as key makeup artist and hair gothic, Megan Titman as possessive artist, Helen Tuck as additional hair and makeup artist, Larry Van as prosthetic designer, Leslie Van Wade as hair and makeup designer, Lusa Valina as personal hair designer, Chris Hemsworth, Elka Vardega as senior makeup and prosthetic artist, Colin Wilson as additional prosthetic makeup artist, William Wilson as dummy technician, Maya Wilson as assistant makeup trainee, Gima Woods as additional makeup artist, Lillian Runji as assistant makeup trainee, Brianna Wright as Connie room assistant, Maya Wilson as assistant makeup trainee. Now talk about music department. Sean Britt as assistant alternator, William Barton as musician, Craig Pocket as score engineer, Jonathan Beard as alternator, Alani Beckett as score coordinator, Colin Burke as music librarian, Cheng Chan as assistant Tom, George Position as technical score engineer, Pedro Cochi as roll dog, Jordan Cox as music department, Lusa Fregeni as technical score engineer, Christopher Joner as conductor, Charlie Hope as assistant score engineer, Porphyry Hope as assistant conductor, Ross Murkison as assistant music editor, Lime Pose as protocol operator, Brad Ritchie as music preparation, James Regan as music preparation, Jack Roberts as additional arranging, Azai Ross as assistant score engineer, Michael Anthony Rufog as technical score engineer, James Shaw as music editor, Jamie Thierman as assistant art orchestrator, Edward Tabak as orchestrator, Henry Wilson as orchestrator, Matthew Van Leeuw as modifier Matt, Jamie Cuff as Gastown gate opener, Justin Jones as Predator Bob, Jacob Tomori as the Dogman, Percy Bate as Beast Boy, Shobolia Tima as Weldon Recordmate, Shukriya Pashan as Biker, Valtier Viper as War Boy, Jima Chizi as Treadmill Rat, Alex Time as Dementor Spiker, Cog Riley as Dementor Spiker, Thevilia Marinal as Treadmill Whore, Throshi Surva as Gas Owner, Tristan Tomsworth as Kid, India Rose Hemsworth as girl, Nerin Corsair as war boy. Before going to any other detail, let me give you a brief bio of George Miller, the director of Mad Max Furiosa. George Miller, born March 3, 1945, Chiltern, Queensland, Australia, is an Australian director, screenwriter, and producer who works in a diverse range of genre, but is best known for the franchise actor series Mad Max. While studying medicine at the University of New South Wales, Miller and his twin brother John made Set Wizard film 1971, a short film that won a local competition. The prize was free attendance as a film workshop. Miller made Broadcasting. The two became frequent collaborators, and in 1971 they made recreational recovery short film Violence in the Cinema Part 1. After completing his medical residency in 1972, Miller worked as a doctor while continuing to make short films with Kennedy. The two eventually developed the story that became Mad Max 1979. It started a little-known Mel Gibson as Mad Max Rockstreet, a policeman in a post-apocalyptic world who seeks vengeance after a gang murders his family. The bleak and violent film, which was made by a production company marked by Miller and Kennedy, featured a spectacular stunts, intense action, and a cast of visual characters, all of which became trademark of the series. Although critics were divided, the movie became a worldwide hit at the box office. In addition to direction Mad Max, Miller co-wrote the script as he would for almost all his later films. More success followed with Mad Max 2 The Road Warrior 1981, which is set after World War III. The anti-hero Max falls in with a group of people at an oil refinery and defends from a wild motorcycle gang. Miller then took a break from Mad Max to work in television and to direct a segment of Twilight Zone, the movie 1983. Shortly after the film release, Kinney was killed in a helicopter crash. In 1985, Miller returned to the future with Mad Max Beyond Thunderstorm, which he coordinated. In that installment, Max finds himself the odd with Anthony Intellectually, played by Tina Turner, the ruthless leader of Brenttown. The film received generally positive review and it was popular with Navigorian. Miller then took a break from action movies to the director The Witches of Eastwick 1987, an adaptation of the John Udwick novel, with all-star cast which included Cher Soderson and Michael Peterson as the title character and Jack Nicholson as the devil. The comedy horror film was a critical and commercial success. Shifting gears again, Miller's made Lorenzo's Isle 1992, a fact-based drama that stars Nicole and Stormer as parents of a child with rare disease. Miller subsequently earned his first Academy Award nomination, co-writing the script, continued to explore different gender mirror and work on the series of family comedies. In 1995, he co-wrote the script for Babe, about a pig that aspired to a sheepdog. The film, which blended live action with computer animation, was nominated for 7 Oscars, with Miller receiving his second award for writing. He then directed the sequel Babe Piggy in the City 1999, in which the title character must save his farm after the owner is injured. However, it is failed to match the success of the original, possibly because of its darker subject matter. Miller cast musician as his main character in Happy Feet 2006, which he coordinated. A huge success at the box office, it receives an Oscar for Best Animation Film. Less popular was Happy Feet 2 2011. 30 years after what had been the Lord Mad Max film, Miller's rebooted the series with Mad Max Fury Road 2015, which featured Tom Hardy as the racial character. The film opened with Max being captured and taken to the settlement ruled by a tyrannical overlord, who becomes integrated with Imperator Furiosa. Charlize Theron helps his wife escape. Max eventually joins the women, and the film is largely an extended case scene procedural with spiritual feature effect. A hit was with Crisis and at the box office. A film earned 2 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. Miller also earned his first note for directing. In 2022, Miller directed and co-wrote 3000 Years of Longing, an adaptation of a short story by A.S. Bayard. It centered on a scholar Tilda Swinton, who discovered a genie Arishbaba and is offered 3 wishes. Miller returned to his long-running action series with Furiosa Mad Max Saga 2024. The film, a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, tells the story of Imperator Furiosa, played by Ella Brownie and Anya Taylor-Joy, as she is kidnapped as a child and struggles to survive in a world given by water and violence. Critics praised the movie's storylining and action sequence, but it is underperforming expectation as the box office. Mad Max Furiosa, Australian post-apocalyptic science fiction action movie, released in 2015, that is considered one of the greatest action films ever made, directed by George Miller. The film is the fourth entry in the Mad Max series and it is served as the reboot of the franchise after a 30 years hiatus. Mad Max Furiosa was a commercial success and garnering a theatrical review, the rare blockbuster action film to win Best Picture award from a variety of critics, associations, and other industries groups. The post-apocalyptic visually thrilling edited action and sterling performance by co-lead Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron portrayed Max and Furiosa respectively. Received particular praise. A prequel film Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga was released in 2024. Background: A Mad Max 1979's Max features Australian actor Mel Gibson as a police officer is a near-future dystopia. In its 1981 equal, the road warrior Max had been reduced to drifter Albert unwilling to help a small community resist attack by bandit. Gibson played Max for a third and final time in 1985's Mad Max Beyond Thunderstorm in Mad Max to protect a group of abandoned children as they rebel against the world anti-entity played by Tina Turner. The Mad Max franchise stood idle for years until film series creator Miller's attempted to move forward with a fourth film in 2001. Again started Gibson, however, after the September 11 attack, the plan fell through and by the time Miller was able to try again, Gibson was too old for the part and the actor had become unpopular as a result for high-profit misbehavior. Miller considered an animation sequel but only brief. Instead, the character was recast. At one point, actor Heath Ledger was the frontrunner to land the role, but ultimately death in 2008 forced Miller to go another route. Eventually, Tom Hardy was cast and the film was finally able to move forward nearly 30 years after the previous installments. Premise and summary: Mad Max Furiosa is set in a post-apocalyptic Australia in which the warlord, a Morton Joy, played by Hugh Brain, rules his authority by controlling the water supply. Max Rostensley, a former police officer haunted by the memories of people who failed to seize, is captured by Joy's war boys, a source of sickly but brutal warrior. Meanwhile, Joy's Imperator military leader Furiosa is charged with taking a tanker truck called the War Rig to a gold field from Joy's allies in Gastown. However, Furiosa goes off course, and Joyce realizes that she has betrayed him and facilitated the escape for his 5 captive wives, including the splendid and great, who is pregnant. Joe sends his war boy to bring his 5 wives back. Max is bound to a car and brought along a blood bag, attached by both a chain and a frustration line to one of the war boys. Nux to feed him healthy blood during to the pursuit. A battle commences in which Furiosa tries to protect the wives and escapes from Joy's forces, while Max tries to survive and free himself from his bonds. When Furiosa drives into a sandstorm to invade the attacking cars, Nux attempts to blow himself up to stop her. Seeking a glorious death, Max manages to stop him, but their car is destroyed by Furiosa. Max survives and drags the unconscious Nux through the desert, finding the wives and Furiosa, who is repairing her damaged war rig. Max holds the woman at gunpoint and forces them to help him escape, and the fight breaks out. Nux awakens and helps Max subdue Furiosa and the wives, but Max has no interest in going back to Joe with Nux and instead helping to hijack the war rig himself. However, he does not know the code to allow him to drive it, so he forms a tentative alliance with Furiosa and the other woman. They drive the war rig back towards Joe's territory, setting up a confrontation with him. Mad Max Furiosa grossed more than $380 million worldwide against $150 million budget, one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year. It was loaded of its explosive interaction sequence and a collective production design, and it particularly for Theron's powerful performance as Furiosa. In a 2029 Rogal Airbrit about the best films of the 20s film critics Thirsty Lemon located. The film won awards for Best Picture and the Best Director at the Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts Award, as well as the award for Film of the Year from the International Federation of Film Critics, the AFI, the National Board of Review, and many others. It was nominated of 10 Academy Awards, including for Best Picture and Best Direction, and won 6 of them: Best Production Design, Best Costume Design, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, Best Editing, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Sound Editing. Prequel. Miller continues the series in 2024 with the prequel Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. The film depicts the spiritual backstory of Furiosa, who this time is portrayed by a child Alila Brony and as an adult Anya Taylor-Joy. Though generally praised by critics, it failed to match the construction box office success of its predecessor. Theoretical production, the planning, rehearsal, and presentation of a work. Such a work is presented to an audience at a particular time and place by live performers who use either themselves or animate figures such as puppet as the mechanism of presentation. A theoretical production can be either dramatic or non-dramatic depending upon the activity presented. While dramatic production frequently conform to a written text, it is not such a text that written in the fictional mimicking. Why the Mad Max movie don't need Mad Max anymore? It's a strange life in the wasteland where only those mobile enough to savage a patrol enough to prevail can survive. At one time, Mad Max was one fault hero in the world. But as creator George Miller proved with Furiosa and Mad Max Saga, there are many stories to behold in the survive that go beyond that of Max Trinity. One hand, spinning off a popular character into her own film is nothing new in these franchise had days, but in the case of Mad Max is much more complicated than that, because almost from the start 45 years ago, Miller has been creating through the world of Mad Max a motif that allows for the constant revenant and reformatting of the series, even while continuing to explore the core concept that the first tackle with the original film back in 1979. We have been telling revenge stories all the culture, military IGN. There is a kind of cultural evolution where stories are told over and over again, but somehow they have to have some sort of resistance with their families. So start your engine, ladies and gentlemen, because we are gonna talk about why the Mad Max movie don't need Mad Max anymore. While the three Mad Max movies, 1979 Mad Max, 1981 Mad Max 2, aka the Road Warrior, and 1985 Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, all feature Mel Gibson's iconic take on the character. There are shifts in the world building between the film, as well as echoes from one to the next, that seem to bend, if not outright break continually. The Mad Max universe is almost like the anti-MCU in the way it's enough to wake Kevin Fred up the cold sweat in the middle of the night. For the first three movies it was the same Max, but the world was not thoroughly the same, explains Miller. As a result of that ever-changing world over the years, some fans began to suppose that each film was just telling a new version of Mad Max story, short of the like soft reboot each time around her, or even rough a classical myth or legend if you will. By the time we got to Fury Road in 2015, Mad Max being recast with Tom Hardy in the role, and the character, let's be frank here, was playing second fiddle to Charlize Theron Furiosa. Not only was Theron a bigger star than Hardy, but she need a rubber story act as well. This is where Millen come to realize the Mad Max could cast exist without Mad Max. It started with Fury Road. Remember the director, the first three Mad Max had only thing in common. That was Max, the character of Max. Each film was different. Each film for me was a different exercise, but none of them were connected. Now we are all in these latter years, we are in a different situation. In order to tell the story of Fury Road, we had to know everything about the world in which it was set. And so Furiosa's backstory was filled in with the screenplay and concept art all the way back when Fury Road was still being prepared. And now all these years later, the story is finally being told. Every story is driven by character, says Miller, and this was especially about the world of Furiosa. We had decided that if Fury Road worked, it didn't accept it to take this long, but we decided to tell that story next. But the thing about Furiosa, now played by Anya Taylor-Joy, is that her story is very much version of Max's story. And Dementis Chris Hemsworth villain is the Furiosa film. Also mirror those character, it almost as if Miller is telling variation on the same legend over and over and over again. The first Mad Max movie was not always meant to be set in a dystopian hellscape. Not only came out because the production didn't have enough money to set me in the real world. Initially that was made to take place in contemporary Melbourne where it was shot. That would have invoked backstory of City Street hiring extra, putting settlement in all nice looking cars while would have to stunts on those City Street, as Muller pointed out. They just didn't have too many to do a French Connection or Bullet. So in Vendetta it became a straightforward story, he says. This made Miller could shoot on a desert street on the outcome of the city, Old and run-down building could serve as location, and essentially the crappier something looked, the better. The film became abstracter by being in a Dophifolia world, he explained. Indirectly looked into it. If you like a more objective word, I realize I am no longer obligated to make it realistic to the city I was living in and make it look like a controversial drama, and freed for that. We were able to then get much more if you like frauded or hyperbotic. He paired to a line the first film villain Tucker speaks, the Night Rider, remember him when you look at the night sky. You don't hear a bikie gang leader talking to a guy and say, remember the Night Rider when you look at the night sky. He laughed. You can't do that in a conspiracy story, but you could do it in Mad Max world. Even though he was not yet fully aware of Miller had trapped something bigger than but Red Revenge B movie. With a line like the One Night Rider, the groundwork was already being laid for the idea of more characters ascending to a place of legend. It was there, but it was not escalated, says Miller. I was lucky there is in order to see that. There was not accidental. It was just that the decision gave us promises to do that, and here I am today, all these years later, still exploring those notations. When Mad Max was released, it was a huge hit in its home country of Australia, and it was also embraced internationally. In fact, the little movie went to become the most profitable film ever made at the time, due to its low production cost, a record that would not be broken until the Blair Witch Project came out 20 years later. But in North America, Mad Max was not a success, no doubt hampered by the limited release and the Australian actor being dumped by American voices. Still, that didn't really matter because foreign audiences were picking up on something in the film. It became a big hit in Japan, and the truth is, oh, Max is surreal, says Miller. Having an international hit on our hands for our first feature film is pretty impressive. Though Miller laughed now about an embarrassing accident from this period. They said you must have seen a slot of Furiousa Movie, he recalls, and I said to my external shame, who's Furiousa? I actually said that, still embarrassed by it. I made it to be point, by the way, to see every Furiousa movie, and it had a huge influence by the filmmaking as it did on everyone else. By beyond learning about river foreign direction, the international reaction to the Mad Max proved to be entirely convincing for Miller. From Spain to Cuba to France and beyond, the film was being interpreted in interesting ways. The Scavenger they said, oh, it's a lone Viking, says Miller. The French said it's a Western on wheel, and suddenly I realized we had it. It was more ethical in the same way that the American Western, atypical of cinema from the silent era all the way through the recent time. They were allegorical stories in which you could explore the world and issues in more elegant way. Miller realized and his team had gotten lucky with Mad Max. They had kept it in on something much bigger than the story they thought they were telling. It started led him to the work of Joseph Campbell, the regional processor of comparative mythology, whose concept of the hero's journey has been criticized by George Lucas as being a big influence on Star Wars. He spent 40 years in a library collecting all the stories of humankind across all culture and seeing that was in common, explained Miller, and that influenced Road Warrior, which is more deliberate, had more understanding as to function of the sword and the prototype. A Max became a much more mythological character, the warrior of the wasteland. The first Mad Max is more basic revenge tale, says Miller, and interesting enough the sort of left room I realized for me in order to tell the story of Mad Max 2 or Road Warrior. The Road Warrior expanded the world of the wasteland as well as the scope of the production itself after the first movie. This was the film that would finally get Americans hooked on the adventure of Max Rockstunty, even if he had stopped using the last name at the point for all intents and purpose. He was just Max now, and was of the film it would be increasingly rare for the character in the Mad Max universe to even have regular or normal names. The Guru Captain, the Foral Kid, the Warrior Woman, the Lord Hugman, even Max Dog only went by Well Dog Good Boy. At this point, Miller and team were consciously learning into the mythic aspect of the world and of Max. For the get-go, a voiceover mixed with flashback for the first film and real-life footage of war and horror established an ethereal dream-like quality of the story of Max. It even begins, my life fades, my memory fades, or whatever. All I remember is the Road Warrior, Miller pointed out. These are the memories of the feral kid who will one day grow up to be the leader of the new order known as the Great Northern Tribe. But for now, he is just a wolf boy whose life is about to be inevitably changed because of Max. Is the story he tells us what really happened, or just how he remembers things he establishes to make it sing? Does it really matter? Whatever the case, it represented the form of an oral transition. You can particularly picture an old man sitting around a fire telling the next generation about the legend of Max. The Road Warrior has been widely compared to Shane, the Western about a long gunfighter who protects a group of settlement from an evil cattle prawn. Shane even meets a young boy who hero worship him. Thus the feral kid pack a bit more punch than title Joy. Those comparisons are not wrong, as Miller and company are clearly evoking Western post-rap in the film, even giving Max a dog as a sidekick such in curtain itself the regard. But there are also small touches here that go far in building as internal inventivity for the character and their steward. Constructing these are like now viruses but were they once. Take the moment when Hagmed opened his pistol case. Unlike most everything else in the wasteland, this is a nicely kept and seemingly prize-portionate from a different time. Who is that in the photo? Angma grandparents perhaps? Whose medal are those? It's no accident the Miller has placed them here, but it's up to us to decide what they mean. Yeah, that was the catch back then. He sees a Hungman pistol set. But now today, having done Fury Road and having done Furiosa, I can tell you about, but everything came from much more accurately. We can tell you how the Citadel was formed. I can tell you where the Roof Warrior came from. Now he could survive, how he got his guitar, how Max got his car, how each of the vehicle are put together. We see that more spatially. The word building has too much more accurate and precise the word we can in those days. But if you word of the Mad Max taken a great leap forward in Road Warrior, things were about to expand even beyond that film's apocalypse expect beyond Thundermore, beyond the wasteland. In Mad Max Beyond Thunderstorm, Max encountered a tribe of children, echoing the feral kid from the last movie. Only these characters live in a oasis in the wasteland, a strangely paradise-like sight for the series. Even the oldest of the kings seem to barely remember life before the apocalypse or proxycalypse as they call it. But they have maintained an oral history on the convey a rap tradition of how the world ended and how they ended up where they are. The kid called that the tell and it involved foxing what is essentially homemade and movie screen or cave painting, lot of audience participating and really genuine concepts if you are willing to go with it. There is a kind of cultural evolution, says Miller, for storytelling the tell, where stories are told over and over again, but somehow they have to have some sort of resistance with their time. At some point between Mad Max 1 and this film, Miller's was involved into a full-blown most nuclear war landscape. The director lands into the explosive from Paradise Myth. Here are some of the tribes shown from the forbidden fruit of the old world, leading him to the other major locale in the movie, Bettertown, which is run by Tina Turtle, a teen worker clad anti-entity. The character's vehicle and the setting in the ROM are more aligned than ever now. And when Max winds up entering into one or more combat in the Thunderdome itself, there is given the unappropriately thematic name of the man with no name. Client Edward would be proud. There's also a giant transformation happening as of the film, as the vehicle and the like hog on to morph from just cool as scripted for the end of the world into something wholly original. You will even see the design of the cars in Road Warrior. They were sort of. We are not found object purpose, says Miller. They were their own design, the vehicles. I didn't even think about its form of the way back. Then we did Road Warrior. But by the time we did Fury Road, it had to be very specific. Otherwise I would be just surface design. What's funniest about the series is that as the world around Max gets bigger, Max's self-importance seems to decrease. Sure, he was integral to help out the settle in Road Warrior and there he saves these kids too. But Max starts to become cipher at the certain point. A heroic figure whose stand is to do what needs to be done while moving the interesting character to go out on with their lives at the end of each film. Even while he must wander back out into the wasteland due to repeat his heroic feats over and over again. This reaches its extreme in Fury Road, and now of course Furiosa, where he's seemingly been replaced entirely by the Taylor-Joy character. While only 6 years passed between Mad Max and Beyond Thunderdome, it would be another 30 years before Mad Max Fury Road was released. In that time and during the film's total development process, Miller's fine-tuned the Mad Max universe once again, switching much of its focus to Furiosa, another revenge-minded character, which as the point out as he was the strong motive factor his world mythological and religious. We have been telling revenge stories in all culture and especially with Greek mythology and mainly biblical stories. All the Abraham religions, he said. Particularly Old Testament, it's big in the world, it's all mythology, so how would you tell you a variant of it? For one thing, the word of Mad Max was a religion, or cut if you will, build directly into it now. This is the cult of immortal joy, who apparently is also known as the cult of the V8. Even though that worm is never actually the on screen, in the film we mostly see the war boys worship in this way, apparently fighting divinity in the power V8 engine, which after all can be the difference between life and death in this world. And really this is not too far a leap for how Max V8 Interpreter is treated in the first two films, where we hear talk of the lost of the V8 Interpreters. Immortal Joy's godlike promises of an afterlife in Valhalla for the war boys. Their intonation of witness me as they make the suicidal run as the war boy Nux played to the deep historic on the Fury Road. They are all misrepresentation of their religion. Even Joy's disappointment in Nux feels like that of disapproving price basing word judgment on a sinner. Beyond these freaks who are actually kind of indulging at their devotion, there's the many mothers tribe after which Furiosa came. The communal gesture and single feel like the manifestation of a belief of system as well. And even those weird cowguy on cyclists seem to be developing their own strange culture. In Fury Road and Furiosa, the echoes of previous vision of the Mad Max tale continues as well. The feral cult involved into the lost tribe of the Thunderdome, which gave us a call that early inspired the design of the War Boys, just as the Giro captain of the Fury Road, Bethesda Jitica, the pirate of Beyond Thunderstorm. Both of whom were played by Bruce Sequin, the late Hugh Keysbrain, played by Immortal Joy in Fury Road, but he was also the main pirate Troco in Mad Max and so on. That brings us back to Furiosa and even Dementis, who fiction us mirror of that. All three have lost everything they lost in the wasteland, but such deal with their tragedy is different manner. For Miller continues the siege of Mad Max mean featuring out ways to tell the basic story of revenge, and they include doing so without Max himself sometimes. It's a myth, a legend, an artistic, whatever you do call it, the beast telling time and again in new forms. That's the thing about all Vision's story, that revenge takes two graves, and there's no question about that, says Miller. So how you take it, Joe Byung? It feels very fortunate to live in a country where we have the oldest exchange culture and the decade Australian stories. There are at least 65 years old. There's no other culture at the continues. Those stories are a perfect model or a perfect example of how mythology works in the every culture. They had this dramatic culture, explained the director, which they recorded in their favorite painting and their arrives and in their dawns, which explained Wolverine and the world and the universe in very pragmatic, useful way. And I recognized that and saw that. The privilege of standing that's going on, the really understanding that's how stories and need to be told, and so that crept into my work. I still look at it. Witness me, there's a whiff of tragedy hanging around Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, the first Mad Max movie since George Miller, who also wrote and directed Happy Feet, continuously left blues us all with the 2015's Fury Road. Unlike that film, Furiosa has been a box office bomb it doesn't deserve to be. Miller's latest is an action movie masterpiece and an important new chapter in the Australian director Apocalypse saga. It began 45 years with the Mel Gibson 1979 Mad Max. Here we tell a new organ story that Furiosa herself, played by Alila Brown as child Furiosa for the film, and then by Nella Taylor-Joy for the final two-thirds. Furiosa was first introduced in Fury Road, where she was played by Charlize Theron, and Taylor-Joy does not especially sacrifice job for portraying the character as close to Theon's as possible, right down to the voice. I have always been impressed by Taylor-Joy's acting chops, but here she really shines, even with very few lines. Her physical presence is admirable and captivative. This is how you do a strong female protagonist. The only problem with Furiosa was his marketing. 9 years after Fury Road, a pandemic that hit movies theatrically practically hard, on top of the rise of the streaming as 1-2 punch that left a real dose of a wallop, this film needed better promotion. The first trailer was really bad. It looked cartoony with overboarding CGI, almost looked like the antithesis of Fury Road's live-action good way. This was a pretty misleading trailer because the movie we got looks nothing like the cheap Lizard trailer. I think a mixture of apathy, theatrical decline, and the movie marketing sunk this one, and that's a shame because it's the most fun I have had at the movies in years. George Miller does one thing better than any film director I can think of. He puts the motion in motion picture. Working with cinematographer Simon Dogan, Miller's managed to make every scene in Furiosa came to pulsing life with some of the most followed, frantic action I've ever seen on screen. John Sale did the brilliant narrative on Fury Road, but both films are the same DNA sealed tight after the final film. 3000 Years of Longing, and this movie is huge with tons of big screen and wide location. Production designer Cole Gibson had 72 crew members working in this department alone, over twice as many as the first Mad Max had in total. Stunt boosted 172 members. All of this was as one point. Going to be an anime film, as you can see how the sensibility of anime filled into the project. It's been linked to the 1988 anime serial like Akira, which is full of motorcycle and outlandish, larger-than-life character thought with cyberpunk rather than apocalyptic desert. The story of the origin of the Imperator Furiosa, who Max, played by Tom Hardy in Fury Road, ends up grudgingly helping in her fight against the tyrant Immortan Joy. We meet her there as a young girl in the Green Place, and Osh where her people made home. We later meet them in a Fury Road and a self-light survivor. She is taken by the hilarious, proper, dreadful-handed warlord Demetus, a drunk Hemsworth, one of the beast trolls, and then turned to the Immortan Joy as a child bride to joining his harm. As fate, she escaped through wit and steel but never forgets. The film is told in color. The teal blue of the sky, the lush range of the desert, the monstrous claws, first pure white at the whitest puffy cloud, then sold with flare, ballooning red, then eventually black and tarnished as the warlord Oli Columbus heart. Furiosa eventually meets Patrician Jack, one of the Immortan Joy lieutenant, and he rises her up and trains her, reaching her everything he has not learned and setting her up as his successor, her first and only friend since he was taken. We learn all about the various faction. Demetrius is the leader of the biker horde and eventually take control of Gastown, where all the gasoline comes from. Immortan Joy rules the citadel and his flexilar war boys. The bullet farmer wakes up the third pole of influence. Having all these plays and fiction blasted out is really delicious for those who love the Mad Max universe and lore. But in the action and the way Miller waves story, the action so drifty and the real story is the movie scammer. The action elephants is more about the film is the genre. I really count the members times I left out loudly simple because the set pieces were so glorious at the war. The bandit and war boys were so aggressive and breathtaking. One Taker chase scene is particularly turned into perhaps the funniest single comment in any of the Miller's movie, with the action taking place as much in the air as it was in the ground and all in the motion, constant motion. The camera following every flinty body, every explosion under the truck and into the sky is a graceful, madcap bullet guerrilla so shiny, so chrome. I wish I could go back in the time and make myself drive to somehow that has an IMAX theater or at least a really good bloggy digital experience and watch it the way God intended. One of the biggest screen possible with the best sound possible. As it stands, I was just glad I saw it in the theater. This is a film you don't want to miss and what they deserve to be seen on the biggest, best screen you can find. Go see it before it leaves theater if you can. Score 10 by 10. Furiosa's box office explained what the hell happened with the Mad Max prequel. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, had an overwhelming opening box office so far, something that is worthy superior of the wide Hollywood box office problem. Furiosa is connected to 2015 Mad Max. Fury Road as a prequel, set further behind the latter in the Mad Max movie timeline. The film was undoubtedly one of the most anticipated of the year, especially his film-loving circle, primarily due to the immensely positive reception of Fury Road and the fantastic cast assembled for Furiosa. Despite the anticipation of the film, Furiosa's path to Valhalla has been somewhat tarnished. By the time of Furiosa's comic ending, the film leads into the Mad Max Fury Road and tells a fantastic, weakly laid-out, complex story filled with action set-piece worthy of his procedure as successor. Chronologically, that said, Furiosa has proven not to resonate with general audience, begging the question for what went wrong for the Mad Max Fury Road prequel. How much Furiosa Mad Max in its opening weekend? Furiosa's opening weekend numbers are surprisingly low, as reported by The Hollywood Reporter. Furiosa slungered to the $26 million gross between the Friday, May 24 and Sunday, May 26. However, Furiosa was released over the Memorial Day weekend, taking its estimated domestic total between $31 to $33 million. Considering how Furiosa fared overseas, the reading is not much better. It royalties outside of the United States and Canada. Furiosa Mad Max Saga earned around $33 million, taking to worldwide and total opening weekend haul to a lowly $64 to $66 million. Furiosa total budget to Mad Max so far. Furiosa has made $11.5 million domestically on its second weekend, coming behind the Graphite movie at $13 million. Furiosa box office has seen a 65% drop from the first weekend, which would not be despicable on its own, but it's bad news for the movie considering its disappointing opening weekend. As a comparison, the Graphite movie had a 45% drop of its 3-day opening weekend. Furiosa has grossed $49.1 million at the domestic box office as of the writing of this article. The deadline prediction it will be at $50.4 million by the end of the weekend. The terms of international number, Furiosa has so far made $32.8 million overseas. Its biggest competitor, the Greenfield movie, has grossed $66.6 million internationally already. Although it has been playing in some countries since the beginning of May, while Furiosa's full international number of the second weekend have yet to come. The movie's current entertainment point has a shocking low box office total by the end of its run. Although neither Greenfield nor Furiosa has done particularly great in the second weekend, the latter has a much bigger budget. Furiosa reportedly has a production budget of $168 million. Although Furiosa is receiving positive review, its box office return for its opening weekend are underwhelming. Many could point to the film itself and wonder why Furiosa specifically is not resonating with audience. Thought the issue is much broader than any other film. Instead, Hollywood as the whole has been suffering with the box office success in recent years, with a variety of reasons factoring in its disappointing stash to the failed movies. Furiosa, unfortunately, is simply the latest in a long life of underperformance movies that is the great reception is any to go by should be earned much more. The first problem facing Furiosa has affected other 2024 releases like The Fall Guy since the COVID-19 pandemic. The wait time be a movie ending its theatrical run and being released on digital media and increasingly shortening. The Fall Guy's poor box office was cheered off with the environment it would release on digital only 2 weeks after releasing its theaters. This shrinking wait time is causing audience to stop spending money in theater in favor of cheaper home video option, which has eventually impacted Furiosa 2. Aside from wider industry problem, Furiosa started as prequel to its like a contribution to its poor box office. In recent years, prequel to giant movies simply to story and the Hunger Games. The Blade of Stormbirds and Shrieks both have whip gross significantly less than other franchise installments. Furiosa is now following suit with a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, obviously not high on the list of the stories generally audience desired. On the other element that could have ruined Furiosa's opening weekend was its competition. Although the only other film that was released over the 3-day memorable day weekend was Garfield, the film appealed much more to families. Any families who desired a holiday weekend threat tip will have chosen Greenfield instead of Furiosa given the latter's R rating and the former's childlike nature. That was proven by Greenfield almost indicating domestic opening weekend of $31 million across 4 days. Another days of determining how Furiosa performed is by comparing it to other Mad Max installment. Furiosa does not focus on the title Mad Max for the first time in franchise. Meanwhile, it is interesting to see how it compared to the period film. It said is nothing more to the box office number of the Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior and the Mad Max Unpopular. The old age and the primarily difficult being Australia rather than the United States. To determine whether Furiosa is a box office bomb, it is best to look what the film needs to be earned to be labeled as success. Usually it is often to state the television Hollywood movie need to earn 2.5 times their production budget to begin turning a profit. This takes into account marketing and distribution cost, as well as any other outstanding fees and payment. While not a perfect metric, it commonly used in any other film that earns beneath his threshold is usually classified as Hollywood box office bomb. With a reported budget of $168 million, which does not account for marketing cost, Furiosa would have to make around $42 million. For $20 million to break even. This is now impossible considering the movie's opening weekend and substantial second weekend drop. Furiosa is shaping up to the biggest box office bomb of the year, a disappointing result from that received strongly reviews and visited one of the most famous movie Saga of all time. In terms of the predicting how Furiosa domestic and worldwide box office will end up, it's difficult to say. There is a little in the ways of extreme competitor until A Quiet Place, Day 1 in Horizon, and American Saga, Chapter 1 on June 28. In the month between Furiosa and these two films, only Bad Boys Ride or Die could be seen as competition, and that less than Furiosa box office, with the other major film Inside Out 2 likely only impacting Griffith's success. Modern practice of word and digital sales make these predictions somehow less accurate, as a film success or leak thrill upon home release could indicate whether it's a failure or triumph. Modern practice of VOD and digital sales makes these predictions somehow less accurate, as a film success or leak thrill of a home. Whether it is a failure or a triumph, regardless of how the film ends up, it is sympathetic of writer Hollywood problems. By becoming a wasteland with Furiosa, a Mad Max saga became the last thing to join the club, as unfortunately no one is fitting is. A Mad Max universe is vast and could become welcome several spin-off. Yet Furiosa box office put the franchise future at risk. Even though Furiosa leaks the door open for other stories to be told in the universe. Whether a franchise continue or not usually come down to the box office and nothing more. It must be noted that the Furiosa performance at the award season and the Saul suit it could help give the movie a second life despite a not impressive box office run, which could happen to Furiosa. Still, the Mad Max saga is now in the tough position. Perhaps future Mad Max movie will have to make under small budget, echoing the saga's origin. George Miller has discussed plans for future Mad Max movies, including a prequel and a sequel to Fury Road in 2022. Miller commented on Mad Max The Wasteland, nothing is still not fully overlaid. Although revisiting the world of Mad Max, particularly from Fury Road, after Furiosa sound incredibly excitement, it has now become much more difficult for the saga to continue. Furiosa was not a box office hit, yet Furiosa Mad Max saga will likely gross less than its predecessors. Perhaps future Mad Max movies will have to be made under small budget, echoing the saga's origins.